Welcome back, everybody. This is another episode of Open Stride Podcast, and now I have a new guest onto the show, man. But somebody I actually did a lot of shows with on his platforms. He invited me on his platforms, and it always been great conversations. But now I finally got him to come over to my neck of the woods and hop on an episode with me, and that's my brother Xavier, man. How you doing?
What's going on, Matt? It's great to be here, bro. Long time coming. Glad to be here.
Yeah, man. Glad to have you. Glad to have you. And y'all, I just want y'all to let y'all know. I talk about it on every episode because it kind of hurt my feelings. But yes, I am a Texans fan, and Xavier is he's a native Pittsburgh Steelers fan today. So y'all know every episode I try to bring somebody from that conference on. And this episode is going to be the AFC North, and Xavier's here because he's the native Steelers fan. But all my Steelers fans listening, don't get too excited because I don't think he got good news for y'all. But we go jump right into it and go for the AFC North, man. We're going from the bottom to the top. So right now we're going to talk about the Cincinnati Bengals, man. The Cincinnati Bengals, I got them going 4-13. So it's not pretty much too far off what they did last year. They went 4-11 last year. Xavier, I'm not sure how you feel about the Bengals, man. We talked recently about Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, but now Joe Burrow is coming back, and Jamar is coming to his first year. So let's talk about just some moves they made this offseason, and we'll go from there. So, of course, they made the top pick, Jamar Chase from LSU. That's one of my favorite players. I'm all about LSU. LSU U, LSU everything, LSU W, LSU CB, LSU DB, LSU any skill positions in the NFL, you go to LSU to get that skill position. Joe Burrow may set the trend to quarterbacks. We're not the destination to get a quarterback, but Joe Burrow may be that new guy to come in and help us turn into quarterback you. So right now, I got them going 4-13. Zach Taylor, I feel like he's on a hot seat, man. He's been there. Everybody was preaching Stephen A. being the main guy. I know how Xavier feel about Stephen A. Stephen A. being the main guy, pushing for Marvin Lewis to get fired. Marvin Lewis kept them afloat for 10 years. He did never win a playoff game, but he kept them relevant for 10 years. The moment he steps away, the team just bottoms out. They bottom out and they can't even win a game. Now Zach Taylor is going into another year there, and the question is out. Will they finally just realize he's not the guy? If he has another season like I think he's going to have. They only won 4 games last year. I got them winning only 4 games this year. So will this be the year they go ahead and let him go? If he has another bad season, or will they just stick with him because they do have a cheap owner, and he's probably not trying to pay a coach to sit on the sideline if they fire him. So we never know how they go into decision making because a lot of teams, believe it or not, a lot of owners are all about making money. They could care less about winning. They can care less about paying players. They can care less. NFL is a straight business for them. For a lot of them, it's a business, but for some owners, it's a straight business. It's not even about the football field. It's about how much money I can make off this investment that I did for buying this team. And I feel
when
like
it comes to Mike Brown, I don't know exactly what his interest is when it comes to being an owner. I don't know if it's money driven, if it's player driven. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just driven by the fact that he wants to keep the team and the franchise and the family because his father, the late great Paul Brown, did found that organization. I don't know.
Exactly. We just never know. So and people, and just like you can attest to, people have talked about. Marvin Lewis kind of came out and said it himself, like his hands was kind of tied with certain decisions because the owner just didn't want to spend the money on certain situations. He just didn't want to pay certain players. He just didn't want to invest in certain things. Now it been coming out since that moment, since it kind of came out, that they willing to invest in players, they willing to invest in the facility, they willing to invest in this and that. So we're gonna see how it is going forward. They got a franchise calling Joe Burrow. He's coming off an injury. Hopefully he can stand up straight this season. His offensive line didn't get too much better, so that's going to be a scary thing about that team. They did take an offensive lineman in the second round. On top of taking Jamar, they took Jackson Carmel to play the offensive line. But we're gonna see how Joe Burrow looks in his return. People have been saying, there have been reports coming out of his camp saying that he's a bit jittery, like he's scared that he's going to get hurt again. So he's a bit antsy in the pocket. He's jumping around. He gets scared when people dive at his legs, dive at his feet. So he's not comfortable yet. So we're going to see how he does if that translates into the season. But I'm gonna let X get in here. And one thing I want to talk about is the receiving core before I throw it to X is that they bought in Jamal. They had T. Higgins. They drafted him last year in the second round. He proved to be a baller. And they got Tyler Boyd, who's also been productive over the years. And now they're bringing in Jamar. So it's like they have a decent receiving core. They're not the best, but it's young. They're young, and they showing promise to be better in the future. And they got somebody that behind center that can get them the ball in Joe Burrow. But I just want X to get in there and see what he thinks about the Cincinnati Bengals overall.
So we're pretty similar on this. You got them 4-13. I got them 5-12. But I'm not sure exactly where you stand on the losses. When I say that, I mean, do you think that they're going to be competitive losses for a good deal of the stretch, or are they going to be losses that the team just flat out loses? Because I got them going 5-12, but I do have them looking like a more improved team. And as a result of that, Zach Taylor may, because of the competitive nature of it, he may be able to buy himself a little bit more time. We know that they're building something special on the offensive side of the football. Joe Mixon's there in the backfield. They got that good receiving core. Hopefully Joe Burrow can get those jitters out of the way and he can get back to the form that he was prior to getting injured last year. And hopefully some of those offensive linemen that they did draft in the previous draft, hopefully they can finally start to come up to form. So I got them going 5-12, last place in the division. But I believe it's going to be a much more competitive Cincinnati team as opposed to what we saw for much of last year, because they do have some nice foundational pieces to build with. But if the talent's not there, kind of asking for a lot to have a competitive playoff-like team.
I can agree there. I like that. I didn't even bring that point up. They can have a bad season, but it's about how they go about having that bad season. Is it a full out tank mode where they just getting blow out every game? Or is it a situation where they end every game, but they still just not good enough to win? Kind of like, in a way, the Miami Dolphins when Coach Brian Flores first got there. When he first got there, they were getting blew out, and everybody was talking about they're just tanking. And towards the season, he started molding that team and their organization to a competitive team, and they were losing, but they were close in competitive games. And so when they came into that next season, they ended up winning 10 games, and people were kind of shocked. They was like, people were just saying y'all were tanking last season. Now for y'all go for one season and remove from that moment, y'all winning 10 games, and now people 2 seasons from that moment, people picking y'all to make a run for the Super Bowl. So it's like based on what Tua does. So I like that point that you brought up, and I didn't even think of that at all based on how they go about it. So that could save Zach Taylor's job. And Zach Taylor's a very young coach. So hopefully this is not his last stop if he does get fired. But he does have to show some kind of improvement as far as organizational, as far as a grit and grind team. So I like that. I like that point you brought up. So just to move into the next team, y'all. So this is why I got X here. So we're gonna talk about it, y'all. We got to talk about it. So it's gonna be if some people may be surprised, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers, man. So right now, I got them going 7-10. I got them going 7-10, y'all. And yes, this is going to be Mike Tomlin's first time in his coaching career to finish below 500. I know people may not want to believe it, but I think this may be the year. Last year, I'm going to be honest. Last year, I thought it was going to be the year. Going into the season, I said Big Ben is done. They're going to finish below 500. They lost AB. They lost Le'Veon. They losing too much talent. Juju's not that guy. And they came out what? Y'all started 5-0 last year, X, or 6-0, something like that?
Started out actually like 10-0 or 11-0, somewhere around there.
So they started out.
They were undefeated for a good deal of the stretch. But it was around the 5th or the 6th game where I figured out this team isn't as good as their record indicates that they are.
Okay, so, and I was kind of like, my position was, dang, they winning like this. I kind of saw them as a team that was over. So this year, I think it may be the actual year. I was a year too early. So this year I got them. Last year they went 12-4. This year I got them going. This upcoming season I got them going 7-10. I honestly feel like Big Ben is done. I feel like Pittsburgh wanted to move on from Big Ben, but Big Ben took such a drastic pay cut to say, just take me back for one more year at this point. Just one more year, just take me back. Big Ben has always been a player to get paid $20 million, $25 million, $30 million to go into a season where he's not even getting paid. I think not even $15 million. So that just shows the big pay cut that he took just to stay as a Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback. So I think he's done. In all his offseason training and workouts finally caught up to him. They always talk about how Big Ben. And it's not just me or X that's saying this. I'm not sure what X going to say, but it's not just us that just been saying. There've been people that have been close to the situation in Pittsburgh that say Big Ben is not a hard worker in the offseason. He's not going to be somebody to be a workout warrior. He's not going to be somebody to eat healthy. He's not going to be somebody to put in that work in the offseason to make sure his body is fit. His game is his game. He's a baller. He's a Hall of Famer. He's a two-time champion. His game is his game. But also coming with that game, it comes with other stuff to keep that game consistent for a long term. Once you get late into your career, when your body don't shake back after getting hit 10 times in the game and you got to play next Sunday, when your body don't shake back after getting nicks and knacks every now and again, when you don't have that young body anymore, when it take a little time for your body to heal, you want to put yourself in a position where you still can play deep into your career. In essence, like Tom Brady and kind of what Drew Brees did until he fell apart this last season, and kind of what Aaron Rodgers wants to do. So we're going to see how it goes for Aaron Rodgers. But Big Ben is one of those guys that I feel like he reached the end in his body. But he may come out and prove us wrong. But right now I'm standing on that he won't do that. That first round pick that they took was Najee Harris, the running back. So I think Najee Harris could step in and honestly be that RB1 for y'all, to be that lead back for y'all, and be that guy that could make a push for Rookie of the Year. He could do it based on what the quarterbacks do, because everybody knows most of offensive awards are quarterback awards. So based on what the quarterbacks do that they got drafted, if they play at all, like Trey Lance, like Justin, like Mac, and everybody else, Zach Wilson and Trevor Lawrence, like the rest, see what they do. But Najee may make a push forward if he have a year. Not saying he gonna have this year, but if he have a year like Zeke had his rookie season, Zeke went for 1,600 yards. Not saying Najee can do that, but the Steelers all about running the ball and playing defense. They're not really an air it out team. Last year proved to everybody that Juju is not a number one. Everybody thought he was number one. Everybody seen what he did when he was opposite of AB, and they said they're not gonna miss AB because Juju is gonna step in and be that number one guy. Well, he stepped in. He couldn't prove to be the number one guy. When you the main focus of people's defense, when the cover is rolling your way, when the safety is rolling your way, when they doubling you and they putting their shutdown corner on you for the whole game, he realized quickly that that's a different life than playing number two to one of the best wide receivers of all time in AB. So now he's coming back to another season after being TikTok famous and all that, dancing on people's symbols. And I know X not a big fan of that. But
not at all.
We go see how he does with that. But now the thing I think that's most important for them is getting back into that tough, in-your-face defense and running the ball. That's the only saving grace as far as running the ball and getting to that in-your-face defense. Run the ball, defense. I don't think their offense, as far as throwing the ball deep, is their game plan anymore, and it never has been. It never had been. People was kind of confused because they seen Ben airing them out. And I would give one thing to the Pittsburgh Steelers: they do a damn good job finding wide receivers in the draft. I don't know who are their scouts for wide receivers, but if you think about the Pittsburgh Steelers, throughout the years, they have always kept a good wide receiver core. If you're talking about Centennial Holmes, you're talking about Hines Ward, you're talking about AB, the list goes on about how many guys came in and just rotated and did good at wide receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they always keep a good wide receiver. So I want to give them credit for that. But this might be Mike Tomlin's first year having a season where he lose and he falls below 500. And I don't want to hear it from nobody. X, I don't know where you stand on this, but if I hear one person out there say Mike T deserves to be fired for going below 500, I'm a question where you coming from with this, because I don't think he deserves to be on the hot seat. I don't think he deserves to be fired. I don't even think his job security should even come up in conversations if this team falls below 500 from everything he's done for this organization. But it's going to be some guys out there that's going to say it's time for him to go because he's been there for so long and he's fallen on deaf ears, whatever. But that conversation doesn't even need to be had. But X, I'm going to throw it to you, and I'm going to see what you think about your Pittsburgh Steelers.
Well, 2 years ago, I had kind of fallen into the trend of maybe it's time for Mike Tomlin to go. The team was looking sloppy. They weren't playing good football, and they were just looking sloppy. And that's something that the Steelers teams over the years, they don't do. They don't play sloppy football. Even if they're losing games, they always are usually prepared for games. They look sloppy. But in this case, no, I'm done calling for the man's job. He has made chicken salad out of beaks and feathers time and time again, and this is another where he's going to have to do it in the case because the offense is hindered. Now, people will look at the stats of last night's preseason game and they'll say, oh, Ben played well. But if you actually look at the game, here's what I saw. Oh, Ben played like Drew Brees did his last 2 years in New Orleans. Check down pass, check down pass, check down pass, and then everybody else go out there and do the work to pick up the yards. And that's what I think is going to take for Ben to actually have a decent season this year. There won't be a lot of airing out of the football, like you said, for sure, because you can choose now to go get in the best shape of your life as possible if you want to. It's not going to fix that elbow. It's not going to fix that arm. And as we saw at the tail end of last year in particular, that arm is shot. Like it is gone. And when Father Time knocks on the door, hey, when it's time, it's time. So you're going to see a lot of check down passes this year. I do think Najee's going to make a run for offensive rookie of the year this year. And I believe we'll see Chase Claypool and Juju and James Washington try to bounce back and have a more resilient season. But they're going to have to get used to catching a lot of 5 to 10 to 15 yard in route slant type passes and just being able to go the distance. That's what they're going to have to do there. And I'm with you on this. I believe it's going to be their first losing season, but it won't be by much. Watching the defense play so far in the preseason, some of the additions they've been able to pick up, Devin Bush coming back healthy, that is huge for the defense. I got them going 8-9, and it's going to be a competitive 8-9. So I got them hanging in the playoff bubble for much of the season. But towards the tail end of the season, that's when I think things are going to start to unravel a little bit. But I will say this before I throw it back to you. Dwayne Haskins has looked good in the preseason. And if somehow, hopefully this doesn't happen, we don't wish injuries on anybody. If Ben were to go down, I feel a lot more confident with Dwayne Haskins stepping in as QB1 if he has to, as opposed to Mason Rudolph.
That's some good insight and information. I forgot about Dwayne. I remember when he first got released, I thought that'd be the best destination for him to go was the Steelers, considering Mike T there, and I feel like the end was coming in for Big Ben. So I feel like that'd be a good destination for him to go to kind of rebrand his career. But I like that information, and I definitely don't feel like Rudolph is the guy. Mason Rudolph is the guy at all. Like he proved that last season, he had his opportunity to go out there, and he got into a fight with Myles Garrett. All people to pick a fight with, he picked a fight with Myles Garrett. So that wasn't the best decision of anybody. But I can definitely see them finishing at that 8-9 position. Like I said, I got them 7-10. I got them. The biggest thing, like just me going off their schedule, is just that towards the end of their schedule, it gets a bit tough. So they come off their bye week 7, and they go to Cleveland. So from week 9, but when you jump down from week 9 to week 13, they play I would say myself a gauntlet of people. They play the Pittsburgh, not the Pittsburgh. They played the Buff. Who is that? The Ravens. They play the Ravens week 13. Then they go to Thursday night football and go to Minnesota. Then they come back and go home and play the Tennessee Titans. Then they go on the road to play the Chiefs. Then they come back home and play the Cleveland Browns. Then they go back on the road to play the Ravens. I feel like that stretch can really either make or break their season, depending on what they
are. You use the right word when you said gauntlet, because every team that you just rolled off, they can make a case for making the playoffs again this season.
Exactly, and that's gonna be a like depending how they are when leading up to that point, it's gonna determine how their season goes. So like if up to that point, that's week 13. So up to that point, let's say y'all around 500, y'all 2 games above 500, or 2 games below 500. That point of that season is gonna make that season for them, because going into that tough gauntlet, they can easily lose every game in that or come out with just one victory in that. And like honestly, nobody would look at them as if it was an upset that they lost, because every team that was listed is honestly looked at as a better team than the Steelers. So if they go into that and lose all from week 13 all the way to week 18 and lose all 5 of those games, all 6 of those games, people would look at that like, well, they did lose to the Minnesota, or they did lose to Tennessee, who just got Julio, or they did lose to Kansas City, the defending champs, or they did lose to the Browns. Like, but the only thing I would say about the Pittsburgh Steelers, they are resilient. and they played their division tough. No matter what year, no matter how their season going, they played their division tough. So I know a lot of people are big on the Browns. I know a lot of people are big on the Ravens. But the Pittsburgh Steelers will play and that goes for any team in any division. Every time you have a bad season, you never know how the divisional game will go because teams play their division tough, and you can't never count a team out when it comes to a division rivalry. So just to move on to the next one, so me and X been about the same. So I don't know if we go tether off here. So we got to see. So this next team I got going, finishing second in the division is going to be the Baltimore Ravens, y'all. Lamar Jackson. I'm not saying it may surprise people, but I only got them winning 10 games. I got them winning 10 games this upcoming season. They won 11 last year. They won 11-5 last year. They made the playoff. This upcoming season, I got them going 10-7, but I also have them making the playoffs. So it's kind of just one game off of what they did last year. But my only trepidation against them is their receiving core and their offense. I feel like their defense will be where it needs to be overall. Their defense usually gets it done. They have one of the best secondaries in the NFL. Their secondary is top tier. Their front seven is always good. So the Ravens defense is usually always good. It's just their offense that makes me nervous. And I know I talked about in the past. I talked about the Washington football team about how their defense is top tier as well with the talent they have, and I was just nervous about their offense. The difference is with the Ravens have Lamar Jackson. The Washington football team has Ryan Fitzpatrick. That's a big difference in talent. That's a huge difference in talent. So I believe if you put Lamar Jackson on the Washington football team, people may be talking about them as a Super Bowl team just because that's how big the difference is in talent. And if you put Ryan Fitzpatrick on the Baltimore Ravens, people may be talking about them as missing the playoffs. So that's the big difference as far as their offense. But they bought in some pieces. So is this going to be the year that Hollywood Brown steps into that role as a true number one wide receiver? When this be his year, I know his rookie season, he had a breakout for his game, went for over 100, and after that, he kind of tethered off. Coming into last season, people were talking about just this upcoming season, people were talking about will he be the number one guy. Throughout the season, people were talking about can he be the number one guy. He kind of was throwing like cryptic tweets out talking about y'all won't let the dogs loose or something like that. Pretty much saying the offensive coordinator and the coaches were holding him back. Like he couldn't go out there and do what he wanted to do because he was being held back by the offensive system. That's not something you really want to hear from somebody you want to step in as that number one lead receiver, saying that he's being held back by the system. Not saying everybody can be a transparent player that can outstand any system that can go anywhere. Majority of players in the NFL need to be in the correct system to be that guy. But if you're a speedster like Hollywood Brown and you supposed to be that number one draft pick coming out the first round, if you put up all those numbers in college, you would expect somebody like with his stature to go out there and make something happen. But he, instead of taking that on himself, he kind of put it on the coaches. Like, I'm trying to do my thing, but they're holding me back. I'm trying to go out there and ball out, but they're not letting me do my thing. So we're going to see if this is going to be the year where he step into that role and be that true number one, because they really don't have a true number one wide receiver. Now, if you want to talk about receiver, period, their tight end could be that number one option. Mike Andrews. So he can be that number one option. He's a top five? I'm not sure what X have, but he's at least top five tight end.
Top five, top six.
Yeah, exactly. Top five, top six tight end. So he's that number one option on the offensive side. But who's going to be that wide receiver on the edge to take the pressure off him in the center of the field? Who's going to bust a top open on the defense to get deep? Hollywood's supposed to be that guy. They bought him with Rashad Bateman. With that first round draft pick, we're gonna see can he step in and be an option for them. And they bought in Sammy Watkins. Sammy Watkins was once a top five pick, went to Buffalo. They traded up to get him in Buffalo, and he really didn't. He proved to be a decent wide receiver, but he wasn't like that all-time wide receiver they thought he was going to be. Then he went to the Chiefs and he won a Super Bowl with Patrick Mahomes, and now he's with the Baltimore Ravens. So we're going to see what he does there. But overall, my biggest question mark with them is their wide receiver core and their offense as a whole. Their running back, they don't have a number one running back like you would think. So we're going to see how their running back duo does. They bought in J.K. Dobbins last year. We're going to see how he does going into his second year, see if he can come into a better player and kind of get used to the more NFL system and everything like that. But one thing that catch my eye about running backs, when a running back struggles even as a rookie, it kind of raised my attendance, because that's one position that no matter where you get drafted, you can step in. If you that guy, you prove to be that guy. So for him to not go out there and prove to be that guy his rookie season kind of got me like, is he? Can he, like, even though he's going to his second year, can he really step in and be a better running back for him? We're gonna see. But I just want to throw it to X and see what you think about the Ravens overall right now. Like I said, I got them going 10-7, struggling throughout the year, but they're gonna make the playoffs. And after they get into the tournament, who knows what can happen?
So I've got the Ravens making the playoffs, but I've got them finishing in first place.
Woo!
I've
Let me
got
hear
them
it.
finishing in first. I've got the Browns finishing in 2. I know we haven't touched on Cleveland yet, but I got the Browns finishing in 2. But the difference in the wins and the losses is not actually different at all. I got the Ravens finishing in first, going 11-6. It's going to be a tough division. It's not going to be one of those divisions where somebody's going to win 12, 13, or 14 games, in my opinion. I don't see that happening with this particular division because you have two teams that are definitely playoff caliber. You have a fringe playoff caliber team in Pittsburgh, and you have a rebuilding team that's going to come out and play with a lot of pride in Cincinnati. So I got the Ravens going 11-6. I have question marks about the receiving corps to a degree, but going out and getting Sammy Watkins was a smart move. That was a chess move because when it comes down to that battle of Ravens versus Chiefs, Lamar versus Patrick Mahomes, Lamar has never won in that matchup. And now you bring in somebody like Sammy Watkins, who is set in that offensive room with Patrick Mahomes, knows some of the keys, knows some of the ingredients, knows how to take some of that recipe away to possibly help that defense when they do match up against Kansas City. And him just being a veteran voice in the room for those young guys, someone who has been in the league for a good amount of years now, has championship experience too. That's a good equalizer right there. So I'm not exactly focused so much on his on-field production because I think he's going to have a good year. He's not going to fall off a cliff or anything, but I don't expect him to be their number one. I expect him to be probably their second or third best receiver from a statistic standpoint. But when it comes to the Sammy Watkins move, I look at more so of what he will do for the locker room as opposed to what he's going to go out there and do on the field. I have my questions about some things with them defensively too, though, because, man, that linebacking core is not going to be the same. So we'll see if some of those guys can step up. They lost some key guys in the offseason, but Baltimore is really good at drafting certain positions, and linebacker is one that they always usually hit on. So we'll see what happens with that position, but I got them finishing first in the division, just narrowly edging out the Browns with an 11-6 record. Lamar, we know why they're going out there and getting all these receivers, number one. We got to turn Lamar more into a quarterback as opposed to an athlete who is out there playing quarterback. He's able to get out of a lot of trouble by being able to escape the pocket and his ability to run and scramble and do all of those things. He gets his left tackle back. That was a big part of why he had to scramble around in the pocket last season anyway. He lost his left tackle. So he gets his left tackle back, one of the best left tackles in football when he's healthy. So we're going to see what happens right there. It's going to be a tough fight, but I have Baltimore winning the division. I don't have them doing too much more, though, once they get to the playoffs.
I mean, I like all that, and I didn't even touch on that, and I'm glad you touched on that because I didn't, and I wanted to see what you were going to say about, and that's a big question. I talked about the wide receivers, I talked about the line, I talked about the coaches, I talked about the offense, I talked about everything, and I pretty much absolved Lamar Jackson. I didn't say anything about what Lamar needs to do about the wide receiver core or what he needs to do to make the offense better. I talked about how great he is as a player and as an MVP, but I didn't say anything about as far as Lamar. They're doing everything in their power to make you that guy. Will you step up to the plate and be that guy? And X brought up an excellent point as far as it's really no excuses. They're doing everything they could to make sure you that guy. And I know you're having your contract dispute with them now as far as getting paid. I don't know if it's on their end. They don't want to pay you what you want. I know they said that you was negotiating your contract by yourself and you don't have an agent. I don't know if that's a smart decision. Not saying that it's a bad decision, but I'd never negotiated the contract, so I can't speak on it. But I just, based on everything I know, I seen like you would think that you need some kind of counsel when it comes to negotiating the contract, especially your big contract coming out your rookie contract as a quarterback. So Josh Allen just got paid, and I'm pretty sure Baker is next on that totem pole to get paid. So we're gonna see how it goes with you. As far as you can get your money, and if you can step in and be that guy. I'm not sure what X have you right now, but some people have you as a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Some people have you as a top
I
10.
don't have him as top 5, but I do have him in the top 10.
Okay, you got him around like with that 7 and 9 spot, 7 and 10
Yeah,
spot.
yeah, somewhere between 7 and 9.
Okay, I agree. I have him like before when he won his MVP. I felt obligated to put him in the top 5. I feel like it was my obligation as him being a former MVP that I haven't put him in the top 5. Him being a season removed from being MVP, I feel less obligated to put him in automatically as a top 5 receiver. Quarterback, because I see other guys like my biggest thing with him, and I'm gonna say it now. My biggest thing with him was can I put Russell Wilson ahead of him, seeing that Russell Wilson doesn't have an MVP. Russell Wilson's a champion though, and he went to multiple championships, and he proved to be a winner. So right now, I can put Russell ahead of him, even though Russell never even received one MVP vote, and that's more a slight towards the people that's voting than Russell, if we're being honest. But that was mainly my hang up about putting Lamar over Russell or putting him above Josh Allen or putting him above Deshaun Watson. Like, can I put him above them or can I put him behind him? Right now, I have Lamar below all of them, but I still have him in that top 10 spot. I'm pretty sure we got him around the same mark as far as that 7 to 10. But like you said, I talked about everybody around him, but I never bought the blame to his front step, and now it's the perfect time to do that. It's Lamar's time to step up. He finally got the monkey off his back and won a playoff game last year. I know a lot of people were saying that he couldn't win a playoff game. He stepped in his rookie season and led him to the playoffs. And the Chargers pretty much said, "You're not gonna beat us on the ground. We go drop all our cornerbacks back. We go rush 3, rush 4, and you gonna have to throw the ball down the field." And he proved that he couldn't do that. Throughout the game, he started figuring the defense out and started making plays towards the end of the game, but he wasn't able to do that. Going into the last season, his MVP season, he still was not able to get into the playoff. He lost to he got to the playoffs, but he was able to advance for the playoffs. He lost to the Tennessee Titans. They did the same thing. You're not going to beat us on the ground. You're going to have to throw the ball downfield. And he showed signs that he was getting better in that game, and he wasn't able to do it. Now, last season was when he finally got the monkey off his back and won a playoff game, and he was able to lead his team to a playoff victory. Now we're going into another season removed, his second or third season removed from winning MVP, and people are looking at him like, can you get into the playoffs and make deep playoffs run? You prove that you can win a playoff game. Now can you go out there and make a deep playoff run to the AFC Championship or even to the Super Bowl? Can you do that? Can you be that quarterback to do that? So we're going to see what he does, and we're going to see how he does from there. Anything you want to add on about the Ravens before we move on to the next team?
No, you hit on every point. But I will say this. The one last point I will say about them, and I think it's an important point because we didn't touch on this either. At what point does John Harbaugh stop living off of that one Super Bowl that he won 9 years ago?
That's an excellent point. That's an excellent point to bring up because coaches do that a lot. And a lot of time coaches they can win a Super Bowl or win a championship or win a World Series or win any kind of championship, any level, and they can ride that for the rest of their career and not make any kind of improvement from that point on. Prime example, I know I'm making basketball references, was Rick Carlisle. 10 years winning that championship, couldn't even get out the first round. But every time somebody referenced him, and he earned that, he was referenced as a championship winning coach. But that kind of absolved him from all issues. People looked at him as a champion. So anytime his team underperformed, they never wanted to hold him accountable until finally he decided to quit because he couldn't get along with the superstar player in Luka. But if he didn't decide to quit, Mark Cuban would have kept him on that seat as a head coach, even though he went 10 years without even getting out the first round. So perfect example to bring up John Harbaugh. How long is he going to ride that championship and not be able to make results on the field and making it to at least an AFC championship or at least another Super Bowl appearance? Like losing in the first round, losing your first round matchup, or losing your first playoff game is no longer an excuse. You have the quarterback, you have the defense, and you're getting the players put around you. And like you said, the Ravens are one of the best teams when it comes to drafting. So it's really no excuses right now.
And to anybody out there who's going to say, well, but y'all are sitting here giving Mike Tomlin praise and he hasn't won a Super Bowl since 2008. Mike Tomlin has coached his team to another Super Bowl and he's never had a losing season. John Harbaugh has had at least 2 or 3 losing seasons in Baltimore.
Exactly. That's an excellent point. So now we're going to move on to the last and final team of this division. And X kind of already gave it out that he thinks they're going to finish second. And you got them winning, 10 games?
I got them winning 11.
11.
So
Okay.
I have them going 11-6 along with the Ravens. I just got the Ravens taking the tiebreaker in division games.
Okay. Okay. Well, I got them. I actually got them going 12-5. I got them going 12-5, and I know. So I know that the Browns are everybody's second, and I forgot to mention this, and I'm gonna say it for every team on every episode. I talk about what Pro Football Focus has each team ranked roster wise. So just to talk about the Bengals, Pro Football Focus, I didn't say it. They have their roster ranked 24th. Talk about the Steelers, they have their roster ranked 16th, and to talk about the Ravens, they have their roster ranked. Let me check. They have the roster ranked fifth. And now we're on the Cleveland Browns. Pro Football Focus literally have their roster ranked as third. So that's literally, they're saying they have the third best roster, and the only teams they are behind are the Chiefs and the Tampa Bay Bucks, the two teams that went to the Super Bowl. So Pro Football Focus is literally saying the only teams that have a better roster than the Cleveland Browns are the two teams that played in the Super Bowl last year. Out of all the teams left in the NFL, nobody have a better roster than them based on what Pro Football Focus thinks. And not saying their word is gospel, but I know a lot of people reference Pro Football Focus when it comes to things like that, just based on how they break the stats down and individual stats, game stats, team stats, and how they break it down. So not saying that what they say is gospel, but they have their roster ranked 3. And if you look at the Cleveland Browns, they have a damn good roster. You can look at every position, every player, every position you see, they have at least a good player at that position or above good player at that position. They have no position where you can look at that player and be like, oh, he's a above average player. They have at least an average.
The two biggest things I say that they have going for them that is definitely an advantage. They have a great offensive line and they have two dynamic running backs.
Exactly, and they have some teams can't even get one dynamic running back. I was joking with somebody on one of my previous episodes. I was saying, what if the Los Angeles Rams had Kareem Hunt as their running back? That would put them in a different stratosphere because they don't really have a true number one running back right now. Imagine Kareem Hunt, he's the number 2 running back over there. Imagine if he played for the Los Angeles Rams. That would put them in a different stratosphere. So they have 2 elite running backs, like you said, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And then you look at their wide receiver position. Of course, they got everybody's favorite or most hated wide receiver in Odell Beckham Jr. They still got Jarvis Landry. They got the Higgins had a really good season last season. Higgins looked like he may be one of those go-to guys for them on their offensive sides. And they still got a good tight end core. We're gonna see what David Njoku does. He got hurt last season. Everybody was hyping him up like he was going to be that next tight end to step in. He proved to not be that guy like people thought. He did deal with injury, so I don't want to put it all on him. But I've been watching Jarvis Landry. Shout out to Jarvis Landry. He has like a little small vlog page on his YouTube, and he not saying small like he's a small deal. I'm saying it's like a short vlog, like the videos are short. But he's been showing David Njoku. He's been working out. He's look like he's in good shape. He's going to all the camp, Baker camps, the catch with him. He's chilling with the team, and he looked like he's back and 100% healthy. So we're gonna see if he steps in and beats that guys for them. Offensive line, like you said, top 5 offensive line. Like Baker may not. Baker, I know he gonna get touched, but I'm being hyperbolical. He may not get touched all season. That's how good the offense. He may sit in the pocket and call his girlfriend or his wife from the pocket because that offensive line is top tier. But the biggest thing I would say with them is, does Baker and Odell really have that chemistry that everybody thought they were going to have? When he got there, everybody was like, "Oh yeah, Odell here, he a top 5 wide receiver. Baker's here, he's coming into his own. He had a good rookie season. Now he's going to get Odell. Now they're going to take off." It seemed like Odell was hindering Baker more than anything because Baker was forcing the ball to Odell and not spreading it out. The moment Odell went down, Baker seemed like he freed up and was getting the ball to everybody. And when Baker was there, he feel like he has to throw the ball to his Baker, or at least not to Baker. He has to throw the ball to Odell, or at least look Odell's way to see if he's open before he scanned the field.
And see, that's one of my concerns with Cleveland when it comes to why I don't have them a little bit better than 11-6. They got a lot of mouths to feed because David Njoku's back, but you got Austin Hooper over there on the other side too, and that's a top tight end in the league when he is given his opportunity to shine.
Yeah, I didn't even mention Austin Hooper. You're 100% right. Austin Hooper, and they bought him in this offseason, right?
Yeah,
they bought him in this offseason, and he played good last season, so we're gonna see how he does now. And they do you 100%. They have a lot of mouths to feed. Can Baker be that guy to step in and make everybody happy? Can the team as a whole, those players, not have an ego and not worry about the ball coming their way as long as they getting wins? We're gonna see. And the biggest monkey in the room, the biggest issue in the room, and the biggest problem, in my opinion, is the issue with Odell Beckham Jr. Is he still that guy we seen that made that catch on that faithful Sunday night or Monday night against the Dallas Cowboys, and he made that one-handed catch, and it was the catch heard around the world? Is he still that guy? Is Odell still a top five? I mean, it was one point in Odell's career that if you didn't put him in your top five, people looked at you like you were crazy. Now we're at the point where if you do include him in your top five, people may look at you crazy. We at that point now. So Odell, I know he's like when Odell first got into the league and the numbers he put up and the talent he displayed, you would literally like I'm not gonna say everybody, but I literally looked at him like am I looking at the future best wide receiver of all time? Is he gonna be the new GOAT wide receiver? Is he gonna catch Jerry Rice, Terrell Owens, Chris Carter? And I say Chris Carter one of the best, but he one of the greatest all time, Hall of Famer. Chris Carter, is he really want to go be one of those guys to be looked at as one of the best wide receivers all time? Is he? I literally looked at him like that. I know it may sound crazy. I know some people seen that too. But his talent was just oozing out, and he was just being so talented. I was just like, man, we may be witnessing the best wide receiver of all time. We're 3-4 years removed from that. We're 3-4 years removed from that. Odell got hurt last year. Odell dealt with injury the year before that, and Odell his last year in New York, he dealt with injury. So 3 years in a row, Odell dealt with injury, and now we at the point where has that talent? Is he still that guy that we think he is? Is he going to be that guy to step in and be a top five receiver and still display that talent that he had the first 2 years in New York? Go ahead, X.
So here's the thing when it comes to Odell and that particular scenario and conversation right there. I believe he still is capable of being that guy. The talent's still there. Yeah, he's had a couple of injuries, but he's a very hard worker, and the talent is there. I just don't think he's going to be able to be that guy in this offense. They have way too many mouths to feed. You got to distribute the ball all around the field in order to make this work. And with him coming back, you already touched on it. What does that do for Baker? Does Baker still go in and say, okay, I know what I can do without you. How do I bring you back into it and still do the things that I was doing when you went down last year? Does he go back into that mindset of, I got to feed Odell the ball. I got to force Odell the ball. Because if he goes into forcing Odell the ball, this isn't going to work and all of this could potentially fall apart. Which is why I think at some point in the season, near the trade deadline, there's going to be a team out there that's going to have a need for a playmaker. And I think Odell will not finish the season in Cleveland. I think he's going to get traded. I don't know where yet because all of this has to play out. The injuries and everything have to happen. And unfortunately, because, injuries, you don't want to see that happen to anybody, but we know the injuries are a part of the game. There's going to be a team out there that's going to have a need for a playmaker, and I think they make the trade for Odell.
Oh my goodness, X is coming with the fire today, y'all. X, I've been missing out by not having you on the show. What was I thinking? What have I been thinking, man? He's coming with some fire today. So dang, that kind of took me back. So moving on, that's an excellent point. He could be that. And the team I thought really was going to make a move for him last season was the Green Bay Packers. I thought that was just a perfect situation for him, but it never came to. And now when A-Rod dealing with his issues, I don't know if they're going to do it anyway. So I thought that was
no. I don't expect them to make any special favors for him going forward until they get him out of the organization. The Patriots were another team that came to everybody's mind, but that was before Cam got struck with COVID. And, truthfully, we don't know if Cam is he going to be more of that guy that he was on that Sunday night in Seattle where he went toe-to-toe with Russell Wilson and they were lighting it up on the field? Or is he going to be more so of barely getting to 100 yards passing per game, getting close to 100 yards rushing per game, but it doesn't accumulate to wins and much offensive productivity at all? So I throw them out of the mix right now.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to say which team I think he's going to end up with because, you just look, most of these teams that are contenders, They already have playmakers all over the field. He's not going to end up with the Bucks. He's not going to end up with Kansas City. He's not going to end up with San Francisco. The Rams are a team that I think could make things interesting, but do they have the cap space to make that work?
Yeah, yeah, and they literally. I was joking about it in the past. I mean, we joked about it in the past that all the money they spent out last offseason, we thought they had drug money over there in Los Angeles because we was like, where
Yes.
they getting all this money from? And now they got at this point they got to be capped out after spending all that money paying all those players. They got to be. Then they just paid Jalen Ramsey, so they got to be capped out. So if they was to make that move, they would have to move one of their key players to make that move. So I like that. To see him, and I know it can't happen, but to see him with the Kansas City Chiefs, that would be a special day. That would be a special day to see. Like to see him with the Kansas City Chiefs, because they have their true number one off dump, Tyreek. They got Tyreek, but they don't really have a true number two, or just somebody opposite. I don't want to call it number two, like he's secondary to Tyreek, because I think Odell at his best can be just as good as Tyreek. But right now, Tyreek is a better receiver. No matter how you split it, he's a better receiver. But that's extra. And I didn't bring up the point that the offseason moves they made. They drafted another cornerback. They got Greg Newsome in the first round, and they got Jeremiah in the second round, the linebacker. So we're gonna see. I think he could be a sneaky pick to win Defensive Player of the Year, Offensive Defensive Player of the Year. Greg Newsome, he's gonna fit in with that cornerback core they already have. They drafted Greedy Williams last year in the second round out of LSU. We're gonna see how he does and going into his another year with the team. And they still got Denzel Ward, who they still have to pay. And one thing I want to ask you, just in your opinion, do you think Myles Garrett can be that guy to win Defensive Player of the Year and take that title from Aaron Donald? Like people talk about him as being the next guy up. They say one day when Aaron Donald finally slips off, Myles Garrett's going to be right there to take that title from him. But in your opinion, do you think Myles Garrett is that good, or you think he still got to have to wait his turn because AD's not going anywhere anytime soon?
I think he's that good, but I also think he's surrounded by enough that can catapult him to that level too. Jadeveon Clowney, that sneaky free agency signing they made at the tail end of free agency, that could end up playing dividends as well to go along with the other smart and great moves that they made in the offseason. You also look at the safety that they brought in, though, from LA, playing with the Rams, now in Cleveland.
Yeah.
You don't know what he might be saying to Myles Garrett in that defensive locker room either. So like you don't know. The talent is definitely there. Myles is definitely on that level. And to everybody who thinks that, well, nobody's going to take the title from Aaron Donald, nobody thought that anybody was going to take the title from J.J. Watt either.
Perfect.
But Aaron Donald came right there, and he took that up. Now, a lot of it due to J.J. Watt having injuries over the years in his time in Houston, but still, somebody can easily come along and take that title away. So we'll just have to see what happens. But I think Myles Garrett can indeed insert himself into that conversation as best pass rusher in the game and possibly take home his first Defensive Player of the Year award this year. I'm not saying it will happen, but it wouldn't surprise me if it does.
He's definitely in the range to do it. Like he's not somebody far fetched. Like by saying his name, it shouldn't be a shock to anybody based on his talent and based on perfect example that you brought up, the talent around him. Like the talent around him frees him up to be able to make moves like he wants. Like when he got Denzel Ward on a wide receiver, he got Greedy on the other end. They just brought in Greg on Newsome. We'll see how he does as a cornerback, a rookie cornerback. But when they got him out there, I think they brought in the safety, like you said. Then they got the linebackers, like you said, Jadeveon Clowney. Man, that was a steal. Like for them to be able to get him, I was surprised they was able to get him. I was for sure that he was going to go sign with the New Orleans Saints or even go back to Tennessee. But I know Seahawks wanted him. They wanted to keep him. I guess they just couldn't come to a contract agreement. They wanted him to stay in Seattle, but they just couldn't come to some agreement there. So he ended up in Cleveland, and he ended up on one of the best, I ain't gonna say the best, but the most talented rosters in the NFL. So it's definitely gonna be sneaky to see how he does over there. Because Jadeveon at one point was looked at as the next coming of one of the best linebackers in the NFL. He never lived up to that hype, but he never fell off to be not a decent a linebacker. He's always been a above average linebacker in the end. So he always been that good, but he never lived up to be the hype that people thought he was going to be. He's not a guaranteed Hall of Famer at this point. He still has a long way to go. But he's still a very talented player. He's still very young. And he still has a lot left to prove because he still is looking for that big payday. as far as over a long time, over multiple years. He got paydays as far as a 1 year payday or 2 year payday, but he's still looking for that big giant contract where he can get a 5 year deal or a 6 year deal where he could be financially safe for the rest of his life. He still hasn't got that, so he's still out to prove himself so he can get that payday. So this can be the this.
I don't know if he's ever going to get the 5 to 6 year deal because he does have some years onto his career now.
Yeah.
But he can definitely get a substantial 3 to 4. And one thing his track record tells us, when he's playing beside a great player who is healthy and out there on the field, that year that he was playing beside J.J. Watt in Houston, he is capable of being a true force and being an impactful player. So it's definitely something to watch out for.
I agree 100%. He brought that up himself. He said it himself. He said when JJ was healthy, that was some of my best years. He said it himself. He said that when I'm in playing by next to Myles Garrett, it's going to help him out tremendously. Jeremiah, he go see how he does. But yeah, man, it's going to be interesting in Cleveland. Like I said, I got them finished with the best record, and we're going to see how far they can make a run into the playoffs and see where they can go. One thing we got to talk about before we close it out, as far as talking about this team, then I'm going to put X in the house of hot takes. Baker Mayfield. We didn't really talk about Baker outside of him, his relationship with Odell, but Baker Mayfield as a quarterback. Like, how do you see Baker? I know he's up for his contract too, and he wants to get paid. From what I'm seeing, the team wants to wait another season before they pay him. They want to wait until next offseason. They're not trying to pay him right now. I'm not sure if because they're not sure about him. I'm not sure if they just can't come to a complete agreement. I'm not sure if Baker want more money they're willing to give. I'm not sure what it is. I'm not on the beat in Cleveland. But from what I'm seeing is that they want to wait until next offseason to pay Baker. They may surprise us and go ahead and pay him now if they can reach an agreement. But from what I'm hearing, Baker may not get paid until next offseason. But what's your idea of Baker? I know a lot of people is hard on Baker, and I know a lot of people saying it's on him to get this team to the next point because everything around him is perfect. So what's your thought on Baker Mayfield?
So I'm not going to necessarily place it all on him, but I will say this. I don't think they're going to come to that contract extension agreement until this season is over with, just simply based off the fact that the people who drafted Baker and were responsible for him being in the organization, they're not there anymore. This is Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry's team now. And they might want to actually see, okay, you did what you were supposed to do last year. Now we need you to come out here. We need you to prove it again. We need a consistent track record of you being a good quality quarterback for us before we commit to you long term, because they got all of the pieces in place. But if you don't have the quarterback in place in the NFL, it can really set some things back. No matter how many talented pieces you have at wide receiver, running back, any defensive position, whatever it is, if you don't have that complete piece at quarterback, we're not asking you to come out here and be a superstar to the level that Peyton Manning was in his career, that Tom Brady has been for his, or even be what Patrick Mahomes is. But if you can keep that offense on the field, keep making plays and not make mistakes, not commit turnovers, we can commit to you long term because we believe that at some point we can go win a Super Bowl with you. And I just think they need another year to be convinced of that before they commit to him long term, because if he proves to not be the guy, you best to believe that the conversation has already been had and it will be had again. We need to go out and get our own guy that we draft, that we trust, that we bring into the organization. So I think that his situation there is a combination of a lot of things, but he's definitely on a prove it deal right now.
I agree. I feel like you in their front office, and you brought up an excellent point of saying that Andrew Berry and Coach Kevin Stefanski wasn't the ones that drafted Baker. At the end of the day, they weren't the ones there. They not the ones that put him in that position. They ain't the ones that took him first overall. So it may get to the point when they want to say, all right, it's not working with Baker. Let's go get our guy, especially before they make that type of commitment as far as signing him to a 5-6 year deal. Because once they do that, they kind of like lock toes with him for the rest of his career. Because it's hard to move quarterbacks, especially early on in their career once they sign a big contract like that. And if you do move him, you're taking much of the guaranteed money. You're pretty much paying him to go play for somebody else. And that's kind of what the Giants did when they traded Odell. They signed him to a big contract, then they traded him like a season later. They ended up paying, but they was willing to take that risk by paying him to play for somebody else. That's how bad they wanted him out of New York. So we're gonna see what the Browns do with Odell. So just to break it down for y'all, right one more time before we close out and go to the House of Hot Takes. The AFC North, right now, I have the Browns finishing first at 12-5. X have the Baltimore Ravens. Then I have the Ravens after that, and the X have the Browns. So we just got that's the only spot we got flip flop. But after that, we kind of locked step toe as far as Steelers. After that, I have them winning 7. X has them winning 9. I mean 8 games. It's around the same. Then the Bengals are last. We both got them having not a good season, but we're gonna see how they play and how competitive they are throughout the season. So last part, X, we're at the end of the episode, man, and you know the drill. I know you listened to an episode before. I gotta put you in the house of hot takes, man. So DJ dropped that beat. So going to the house take, I'm gonna give a quick overview for any new listeners out there. I'm gonna give y'all a quick overview. House of hot take is 5 quick questions. I'm gonna ask Xavier, and he's gonna have to answer those questions within 30 seconds to a minute. These are not long, engaging answers. These are quick 30 seconds to 1 minute answers, and he has to go ahead and get his response quick. It's just kind of off the top of the dome. He has not seen these questions, so this is gonna be the first time he's hear these questions. So, X, are you ready?
Let's get it.
Let's get it, man. So, first question. You a GM, you a head coach, whatever decision you want to be, GM or head coach. You're that guy to make this decision. For your franchise, who would you want to be your franchise quarterback going forward for the next 10 years? Joe Burrow or Baker Mayfield?
I'm going to go with Joe Burrow right now, just simply because he proved to me that he can be a franchise quarterback. The injury just set him back a little bit. I trust Joe Burrow a little bit more going forward than Baker.
Yeah, I think I can agree with you. I think Joe Burrow is a tick more talented than Baker too. Like just seeing from his rookie season what he did, if he didn't go down, he would have easily won Rookie of the Year. And going forward, he could be more so that guy. I agree with you there. Next question. This is a Steelers question. All these are AFC North questions, ladies and gentlemen. AFC North questions. Next question. Can Dwayne Haskins be the franchise quarterback for your team going forward in the future?
If given the opportunity, I believe he can. He looks to me that he's matured and he's become the person that he needs to be for an organization as opposed to the player. The talent was always there, but the maturity wasn't. So I believe he can.
Okay, I think he can too. I think the talent was always there, like you said, and I think he just got to be that guy to step in and tap into that and stop being. Not saying he's arrogant or cocky, but this is what people were saying that he didn't take it serious enough in Washington, and now he had to step in and actually be that leader. And now, especially seeing what Justin Fields is doing, and being a quarterback that came out of Ohio just like him, and his early success. Not saying Justin's going to step in and be that guy, but just early on, a lot of people are liking Justin based on what he done in the preseason, and they want him to be that guy going forward. So that kind of can give him a bit motivation to see your young counterpoint stepping into a franchise like the Chicago Bears. So, third question. Can the Browns knock the Chiefs off as the AFC champions this season?
I believe they can. They've got the defense to go out there and get it done. And if you're paying attention to Patrick Mahomes and his offense in the preseason, the offensive line hasn't gelled yet. And the offensive line not being together is a big reason the Chiefs lost the Super Bowl in the first place. So they definitely can.
Yeah. The talent is there. Like we already said, as far as all the talent they have all over the place, you can make an argument they have one that they got them ranked as the third best talented team. We can make an argument they could be the most talented team in the whole NFL, if we're being honest. Fourth question. I know we talked about Odell. You dropped the bomb that they should move on from Odell this season. So we go wrap it right around. We talked about the Ravens needing number one wide receiver. Should the Ravens make that trade for Odell to be their number one wide receiver?
They should, but the Ravens and the Browns won't be trading with each other. It's bad blood right there that goes all the way back to 95. The original Browns being located in Baltimore later became the Ravens. It's a lot of bad blood right there. Those teams aren't going to do anything to help each other out.
I agree. Last question. This is a reoccurring question because I brought this up a couple times with a couple different guests. But the only time I bring it up is when we have a conversation with that quarterback. And that quarterback is Lamar Jackson. So, in your opinion, can Lamar Jackson ever reach that peak of being league MVP ever again?
I think he can, but it's going to be more so focused on what he does in the pocket as opposed to what he does outside and on the side of the pocket with the scrambling ability. For him to win MVP again, he's going to have to do it more on a quarterback level than he did with being a quarterback and using his athleticism.
Perfect, man. A+. DJ, cut that beat. A+. For Xavier, man. We go definitely have to have you back, man. Before we close out, we've been on about a little over an hour. Before we close out, I just want you to drop your social media and tell them about your podcast as well, man. I know I've been on there a couple of times, but I want you to let the people know that's listening about your podcast and where they can find you and hear some more of your insightful takes.
All right, so you can follow me on IG at xmcknigh22. You can follow me on Twitter at xtmcknighii. The two I's are both lowercase. Send me a friend request on Facebook, a follow request on LinkedIn just by typing in Xavier McKnight. You should be able to find my profile picture right there. And you can listen to my podcast, Extreme Sports, by going to the Xavier McKnight YouTube channel. Matt's been on there a few times. We're a little out of commission right now, but we'll be back into things soon.
Most definitely. I'm telling you, I had some of my greatest debates on X podcast. X podcast was actually the podcast why I said that Giannis was going to win the championship. Not win the championship, but beat the Nets. That was the first platform I said. I said that before I even said it on my own podcast. So it's a lot of stuff that happens on his podcast and on his YouTube channel. So y'all make sure y'all definitely listen. And I'm gonna link his podcast link below in this episode. So when you get to the description, you just go to the description. You can just click it and it'll bring you right to it. So make sure y'all subscribe. We all about subscribing, likes, follows, shares. We all about that. We need all the interaction to let us know that you listening. Leave a comment, leave any concerns, leave anything that you want to say. I know X probably deal with this just as well as me. Every time you drop an episode, you got somebody out there that got something to say about something you said, and now you got to have a whole nother debate all over again with that person because they disagree with everything you say. So we know all about that. So make sure y'all tune in. We appreciate everybody that's listening. And y'all continue to listen. Like I said, like, follow, share, and subscribe to both our podcasts. And tap into the future of sports debate, sports media, the sports world, period, and make one day sports management. Because I know my goal is to be the GM for the Houston Rockets. I don't know what X end goal is, but I know he got a bright future. He's tapped into a lot of things. So y'all make sure y'all pay attention to both of us, man. And we look forward to seeing y'all in the future. X, again, man, thank you for joining me. 100% got to bring you back, dog. I'm pretty much coming to the end of my NFL preview as far as each team, but we got a whole season to talk about. We got NBA that's going to kick off soon. We got college football, college basketball. We got so much to talk about. UFC, anything. X as well.
We got some interesting stuff going on in Major League Baseball right now too.
Yeah, I was just about to say Major League Baseball is one of the big stories out too, especially with all the talent they got coming up and just everybody's taking a crack as the undisputed best player in the league, and you just want to see who's going to take that crown from anybody. So it's a lot to talk about, and I'm gonna definitely have the X back again, y'all. So thank y'all for listening. Peace.